Today I have a finished knit to share with you, a couple of finished spins, as well as a spin in progress and an acquisition. This is Pineapple Knits. This is my channel dedicated to all of my crafting, whether that be knitting, spinning, or weaving. You can connect with me on social media at Pineapple Yarn, and you can connect with me on my website at pineappleyarn.com. Thank you so much for joining me again this week, and if this is your first time joining me, welcome. I'm so happy that you're here. I'm coming to you from coastal South Carolina, where we are solidly in 50-degree weather, which is very cold for me. But you know, it's just great motivation to keep knitting all of the cold weather garments. And yeah, I'm just really enjoying my cold weather knitting and enjoying it while it lasts, because honestly, there is no part of me that wants to knit or craft with mohair in August. You know what I mean? Yeah, that humidity hits and mohair's out. I hope all of you are doing so well where you are and having a wonderful winter. And I've brought a hot tea with me today. This is stash tea. It's the Spice Dragon. It's Spice Dragon chai, maybe. I don't remember if this is a chai or not, but it is so delicious. It is just made of a blend of spices, so it's very warming. It's so great for winter and for cold weather. So that is what I am drinking today. As much as I would love to make an espresso for myself every afternoon, I try not to drink coffee in the afternoons unless it's an emergency. So I have to stick with my tea in the afternoons. Behind me on the mannequin is my dotted rays fade shawl. I wore it last week, and so if you're interested in those details, go ahead and check out last week's episode, which is episode 98, I think. So I have been very busy this week and just found so much, I don't think so much time, but I found a ton of motivation, just a breath of air that has pushed me to finish my sweater knit, and I'm so excited. This is the Forager sweater by Isabell Kramer, and I knit this out of my own handspun yarn, and I'm so happy. I'm so happy with this project. It's, yeah, no words. There's no words. It is so, the sweater pattern, first of all, is just so, it's such a great fit. And I knit the pattern as is. I knit the smallest size. I actually used the needles as specified in the pattern as well. So my gauge with my handspun became a little more loose, a little more drapey, which is perfect. So my whole goal coming into this project was to obviously knit a sweater with my own handspun, but I wanted a sweater that fit like a sweatshirt, something very cozy, something effortless, and something that was not fussy, something that was just really, really comfortable and warm. And this is it. This is the perfect sweater for it. So like I said, this is the Forager sweater by Isabell Kramer. I omitted any cables or detailing because I really wanted this handspun yarn to shine. And I spun this out of 4 different hedgehog fiber clubs from 2020. And so I kind of had a small stash of hedgehog fiber clubs. And what I wanted to do is blend 4 of those into kind of a cohesive-ish yarn that I could use for a large project. And so the way that I did that is I spun each club individually as a single, and then I plied them all together in different patterns. So if I had fiber club 1, I would ply it with fiber club 2, and then I would take the rest of Fiber Club 1 and ply it with 3. And so I kind of mixed and matched all those different clubs, so they ended up being actually about the same weight. They worked out really well, and I knew about how much yardage I would need, and so that worked out great. I have yarn left over, but not a ton of yarn. So I'm just really happy overall how this turned out. The fiber was a blend of merino. It was mostly merino, and there was some camel. There was some, I think there may have been some recycled sari silk, as well as some viscose for some white tweed here and there. So I'm gonna stand up and give you a close-up of the knitted fabric. So as you can see, the colors were all different in the clubs, and I tried to match up the clubs that had similar colors, but I knew that they weren't all going to be completely the same color. And so what I did is I knit 2 rounds of each yarn and just took turns. And so as you can see, it's kind of a micro stripe. And you can see all the white tweed in there. And so I had 2 skeins, or 2 clubs that had a lot of tweedy bits in there. And so that's why I plied them with each other. And so they would match a little more. You can see that one of the clubs, I think the club that had the camel, also had some yellow in it. So the yellow came out here and there. And right here, it was really funny because one of my skeins of yarn actually had yellow at the same time as another one, and I thought that was funny that they just came up. Now, if I wanted it to be a little more, if I didn't want it to be as random, I definitely wouldn't have knit up this row. I would have knit this row and then just ignored it, but I really like just seeing where things are going to land and seeing how it looks. So there's the back. As you can tell, it was knit in the round. And then I want to show you the cuffs and show you what I did. I had a little bit left over from some of the parts that were smoother yarns. So the tweed was almost completely used up. And then I just had a small amount of the smoother plies. And so I plied those together into a little 5th cake, if you will, a little 5th skein. And I used that for the cuffs and for the rib on the bottom. I also used it for the neckline. So yeah, all in all, I am so happy with the sweater. It fits so wonderfully. You can, I don't know if you can tell the way the stripes go on this, but the back yoke and the shoulders are knit up first, and then you end up joining it in the round. And so you have all this beautiful shaping over the shoulders and the back neck. And so when I first started trying this on, I couldn't even believe the difference in the fit between this sweater and maybe just some yokes that were knit in the round, maybe with some raglan shaping. This fits so well. I absolutely love the shaping on this sweater, and so I'm definitely going to keep this in mind the next time I need to knit a sweater because it just fits so well. I love it. So yay, that is it, and it's finished, and I couldn't be more happy with it. And now that I have a finished project, that actually brings me to another thing I wanted to let you know. One of my goals, we had talked about goals last week on the episode, and how I don't really do New Year's resolutions, but I do goal setting. And so one of my goals actually is to document all of the projects that I make throughout the year, because I've always been so terrible at that, and I'm just kind of terrible at note-taking, record-keeping, taking notes, things like that with my crafting. And so this year I've been better about writing down how I've spun yarn and just documenting that. But then also I've been trying to find a really good way to document all of my finished projects. And So what I have done is I actually created a page on my website, pineappleyarn.com, all of my finished projects. So you go there and see a gallery of the finished projects that I have so far. I only have 3 so far. I need to add this, but I have a corresponding just kind of small blog post about some of my thoughts of the object, the finished object, and the yarn I used, and any kind of notes like that, the pattern name. So hopefully now that I've set this up, I will be very intentional and very consistent about keeping track of my projects. So I've linked that down below if you want to check it out. And from here on out, that's where all of my finished projects will be. Instead of putting them on Ravelry, they'll be on this page on my website. And so hopefully it'll be easier for me to keep track of my projects, as well as easier for you to go and check those out on that page. So now that I'm done with my Forager sweater, I have nothing on the needles. They're totally cleared off. I had planned on casting on a sweater for my son a couple days ago, and now I'm kind of like, well, I might want to knit a colorwork sweater for him. So I'm up in the air. I'll probably cast one on today, and I do have the Strange Brew pattern from Tin Can Knits, and I absolutely love their sweater patterns. And so I doodled a little bit last night with some graph paper and came up with maybe a colorwork sweater pattern, but now I'm thinking, I kind of want to do a color work in hand spun. So yeah, it kind of turned out to be a project. So I'm kind of stuck there, but I'll figure it out tonight. So no knitting, no new knitting, but I'm sure I'll have new knitting next week. So let's move on to spinning. I have 2 finished spinning projects to share with you, and these are kind of overflow from last week. Last week I let you know that I have so many skeins of yarn spun over Christmas break. So I want to go ahead and wrap those up today. So this skein that I'm kind of winding up here, this was a gorgeous project. I really loved this. This was a customer request. She had asked if I could dye up the colorway Spiced Rum on fiber, and I'd never tried it, so I said, yeah, let's do it. That would be fun. So I did, and I saved one for myself. It didn't turn out exactly like the Spiced Rum on a skein. The dye split and had a mind of its own, and I'm okay with that. It's okay. I think the colors turned out so gorgeous on this yarn. And so I was super good, and I wrote up a whole tag on it and took notes. And so this is one of my yarns, Pineapple Yarn in Spiced Rum. It is on 100% polwarth, which is a fine wool. It is just incredibly soft. I have spoke of polwarth before in different podcasts. I actually have a custom blend of polwarth that I try to carry in the shop because I love polwarth. I think it's just such a beautiful fiber. And I'll put all the details of this spin below, but I did this as a fractal spin, and because I love barber poling so much. That's what got me into spinning, because I just love this variegation of the fibers. And barber poling is exactly like it says. It looks like the old school barber poles in front of a barber shop. So when you get a ply that's one color and another ply that's another color, and they twist around on each other, you get all this gorgeous variegation that is magical. I love it. And so let me go ahead and look real quick. I spun this up on a 12-to-1 continuous backward draw. And so how I do that is I just draft backwards 4 times and then let it in, and I time it with my treadles. And so like if my right foot goes down, I draw back one draw, if you will. And I do that 4 times normally and then let it in on the 5th treadle. And so that just gives me a good rhythm and it makes my yarn really even. That's how I've been practicing. I've just been more intentional and more precise, I guess, on how I spin. And so that's how I spun the singles on this on a 12-to-1 ratio, and then I plied at a 16-to-1. And let's see real quick, I did 6 treadles backwards. So as I'm plying and I let the twist in, I did 6 full treadles and then 1 take up, 1 treadle for the take up. So I'll put all the details down below. This ended up being, I think it's about a DK weight, a DK. Yeah, it's pretty solid, solidly a DK. It is 228 yards before washing, so it ends up being about maybe a little over 200 yards, thereabouts. And so anyway, yeah, I'm really happy with this. It ended up being so squishy and gorgeous, and it's spins like this that really keep me going because I just love when they come out so pretty like this. I thought this turned out really, really pretty. So this will also be in my finished projects page on my website, and more details could be found there as well. I think one thing I forgot to mention on my sweater spin is that this sweater was a combo ply, and I guess I just didn't say that phrase, combo ply. And so basically what that is plying 2 different yarns together, or singles that you drafted from different fibers, I guess, is a combo ply. And I found it's a really great way to combine different fibers. I'm not up for combo drafting right now. It doesn't sound like fun at all. It sounds like I just don't want to do it right now, to be honest. So a combo ply is the closest I will get to doing that. So I decided to dive into my stash and go ahead and do another combo project. And so I finished this as well, this combo ply, and I thought it turned out so gorgeous. These were 2 fibers that I'd kind of been hoarding for several years because they are so pretty. I didn't want to ever spin them ever, and they were fairly, I don't want to say they were super similar fibers, but they kind of were. So I'll give you a close-up while I talk so you can see. But as you can tell, this is a 2-ply spin, and one of the fibers was Falkland, and it's from Created by LCB, and it's called Flamingo, and it's just absolutely gorgeous. It was pinks and greens. It was just a really, really gorgeous fiber. The other fiber was from Dandelions and Daisies, another beautiful dyer, and it was pinks and oranges and purples. And so I decided, and it was on a BFL. And so again, I made a tag to document it, and oh, I forgot to say the Dandelions and Daisies BFL is called Summer Fun. And so both of these were very summery fibers. I'm sure both of these dyers released these colors around summertime, probably, I want to say, probably 2 years ago is when I purchased them. And so I've been keeping them in my stash for this long, and I decided, why am I keeping them in my stash? I want to spin them up. And so I spun both of these on, let's see, I spun the first one on a 12-to-1 and then plied it on a 16-to-1. And I spun these exactly like I did with my polwarth spin that I just showed you. And I'm pretty sure, I'm trying to think how I divided these. I'm almost positive that I divided the combed top of each fiber into 4. So I split it into 4 lengthwise. I didn't write that down on my card, but I'm pretty sure that's what I did. and then applied both of them together. Again, all my details will be on my finished projects page, and so you can check out the details on that. I have a whole another skein of yarn as well. So in total, this ended up being 220 grams and 7.8 ounces. As far as yardage, I'm looking at my card right now. So let's see. Oh, I'm really doing a lot of math in my head right now. I don't know. I'm not going to do it here. I will do it on my project page. I'm taking an easy out on that one. But yeah, they ended up being, I would say, a sport to a light DK weight. They ended up being a little bit thinner than my polwarth spin, my spiced rum spin that I just showed you. And I'm pretty sure the reason is that, first of all, it's just a different fiber. They're both different fibers. But secondly, the Falkland is not a fine wool, and so it just drafts a little differently than the polwarth. And when you spin polwarth, it really like puffs up a little bit. And with both the Falkland and the BFL, I was very intentional not to overply the fiber, because Falkland has such a long staple length, and then BFL just gets kind of ropey and stiff and wiry almost if you overply it. And so both of these, I'll just give you a close-up here. Both of these ended up being really great as far as the twist. I'm very happy with them. They did not get overspun or overplied. They just ended up really, really pretty. And so I'm not really sure what I'm going to knit up with these. There's plenty of yardage for a sweater or something. Maybe, well, not a sweater for me, but a sweater for the kids. But honestly, I worry so much about knitting a sweater, anything really, for the children in a non-superwash, because I've had accidents, to be honest. I just washed a sweater, a beautiful colorwork sweater I had knit years ago. And actually, it might be in my Ravelry projects page. It was the Compass sweater from Tin Can Knits. I did that as a test knit for that pattern. And it was this beautiful light blue with this gorgeous, this kind of purple color work on the top. And I knit it out of a non-superwash merino, I think a sport weight. It was a beautiful sweater after I'd finished a gorgeous pattern. And it got thrown into the wash at some point, and it felted so tiny now that I had knit it for my then maybe 6 or 7 year old, and it fits maybe a 2 or 3 year old now. So anyway, I just washed that because someone had worn it, and I mean, it's thick, it's weatherproof basically. Anyway, so I want to be careful with what I knit with my color work or with my hand spun. I'd love to do some color work in hand spun and just do maybe, you know, a commercially spun yarn or yarn from my shop, something like that, and then add some color work in it from a hand spun. I mean, if you paired this color with maybe a mint green, like a mint green sweater with this as the color work, that would be gorgeous. That would be absolutely gorgeous. And there's so many different colors in here. I mean, you could do light pink with this. You could do lavender. You could do even just a neutral, like a gray or a black. You could do any colors with this. It would be so beautiful. An orange would be gorgeous with this. So there's a lot, but I have a lot of yardage with this too. And I don't really want to break it up. So I don't know. We'll see what it becomes. But I do have one more spin that I'm nearly finished with that I want to share with you. This was a spin of fiber that I actually saw it in a Paradise Fibers box from October. And I was like, ooh, I really should have got that box. It's so pretty. And so they ended up having some in their shop after the fact, and I just purchased it and spun it up. And so it's called, it's from Paradise Fibers. It's called Trick or Treat. It is a combed top. And I will give you a close-up of my bobbin, my very, very messy bobbin. It's really funny because it looks like the same colors that are in my sweater. It's just all those kind of marled colors together. And I chain plied this. This was supposed to be socks. It's a Corriedale. I don't know if it will become socks now because it just is too thick. So what I did with this spin, and I'll put a picture up here so you can see what I'm talking about. This came as a comb top, but it had lots of different colors in the top. So there was purple and orange and pink and green and black. And I think there may have been some light gray, so many different colors. So all of the color sections were very, very thin. And I really didn't know how I was going to spin it. I actually took a few different sections of this and played around with spinning it and color distribution, and should I spin woolen, should I spin worsted? And so I decided to do a little experiment. I spun this from the fold off the tip of my finger, just like I did with my Ponyo spin that I showed last week. But the only difference is that I did not spin it long draw. And so as I was spinning off the tip of my finger, the fiber was coming off in a woolen style manner, but I was smoothing as I went back. So I was holding it like I was going to do long draw, but I actually was just doing a continuous backdraft like this and smoothing at the same time because I thought maybe I could keep some of the colors separate. The problem is that the color sections were so short that I do have some really nice runs of, you know, a yellow green or a little darker green or fuchsia. And because I chain plied this, it ended up overlapping. It was just overlapped with other colors. So it's a very marled yarn, which I think is fine. It's just something that I need to keep in mind down the road because I didn't get those that self-striping effect that I thought maybe I would if I would have spun this, say, from a combed top maybe, or something that just had longer color sections. But it was fun to experiment, and I haven't, obviously this just came off the wheel, I haven't washed it. I haven't spun Corriedale in a while as far as I can remember, so I can't remember if this is going to puff up a little bit or what, but it was a great spin. It was really fun, and I knew I would have enough for socks near the end. And so the last sections that I had broke off the top, I decided to do a true long draw and make a chunky single and see how it turned out. And so I'm going to give you a close-up of this fiber. This turned out incredibly soft and fuzzy, but this was spun from the fold off the tip of my finger as a long draw. So I kept this super airy and light. I did not ply it, so it is a single. And then I ended up fulling it. I would wash it in just by hand, but wash it with very, very hot water with a touch of soap, and then I would plunge it into a very cold bin of water and agitate it. And so I went back and forth from the hot to the cold to the hot to the cold several times. And this is how it turned out. I did this as a little experiment because someday down the line, I would like to do, or I'd like to spin a singles yarn just like this and use it to knit a lofty, airy type sweater. And so I think this is really, really pretty. I really like how this turned out. And it's always fun to see how different fibers and different yarns, you know, they can just be spun up differently and they just end up looking different and their properties are different. It's kind of cool. So yeah, I love how this woolen spun Corriedale came out though. It's just, I thought it was very, very pretty. So yeah, that was a fun little experiment. One more thing I wanted to share with you before we move from spinning. I forgot to share this. So in my combo ply project, I actually made a control card, and this is the first time I've ever done it. But this is what it looks like. And I just took a couple of index cards and wrapped some singles around the cards just so I could measure up my singles as I was spinning if I was unsure if they were too thick or too thin. And then on the bottom, I had a unfinished 2-ply. So I did all those samples before I actually started doing the spin itself. And it helped me so much keep a consistent thickness, I guess, as I was spinning. And so I did do a ply back test and I put that sample right on my wheel so I could do a quick ply back test and kind of match the two up. But I took the time to do this control card and it helped so much. So definitely with larger projects, I'm just going to take the time and slow down a little bit and have the discipline to make this up because it was very helpful. So I just wanted to share that with you. And that was just a kind of a personal win on my part because I'm definitely like a project-oriented spinner and knitter, and I don't want to take the time to sample, to knit swatches. I don't like to do any of that. So doing something like this, taking notes like this, these are big wins for me, just on a personal level because it takes a lot of patience for me to slow down and do this. And that's all I have for spinning and for knitting. No new weaving projects. I hope to warp up one of my looms this week and get started on a project. Upon reflection, actually, from last week's episode, I'm thinking I'm crazy if I think that warm weather is coming anytime soon and that I am going to start weaving dish towels. Not that dish towels can't be woven in the winter, but I definitely want to take advantage of working with wool as long as I can. And so I will probably be warping my large loom on soon to do either some kind of pillow covers or a stole of some kind. I'm not exactly sure, but I'll keep you updated on that. And I want to show you one acquisition because I've been waiting for it for a long, long time. And I don't share all of my acquisitions on this channel, but this one was really special and I thought you all would be interested in seeing it as well. So I guess this starts this fall. I saw that Hedgehog Fibers was releasing an advent calendar, and while I do like to knit with my own advent calendar and craft from it, I kind of wanted a surprise for myself this year. And so I purchased the Hedgehog Fibers advent calendar. And I believe that was back in October. And it was shipped about beginning to mid-November, and I never received it. And so it was just received in the US a couple of days ago. And it took, once it reached the US, it took 2 days to get to my house. So I was really excited. So here it is. This is the sleeve for the advent calendar. I have already had near fist fights with my girls trying to get this. And so, yeah, it's gorgeous. It's really gorgeous. And for those of you who might not know, I have 5 kids. I have 4 girls and a boy. So, yeah, the girls rule around here, I'll tell you that. And so this is the sleeve for the calendar. And then as you open it, it is this beautiful packaging, and it's like a traditional advent that you see in the stores that have openings. And so I'm really excited to try this out. I thought this was just a fun gift. This was supposed to be my Christmas gift, and obviously it wasn't. So just is what it is. And so what I'm going to do is open this every day in February. And I thought it would be really fun because January and February just, they're not my favorite months. And by February, I'm so tired of it being cold. And so I thought this would be a fun way to treat myself in February. And I told the children that they could each open up their age. And so my 2-year-old boy, he doesn't care, but with my girls, they care. And so everyone will get to open up the door that is their age. And so we're all really looking forward to it. I'm not really sure what I'm going to make with them yet. I have very intentionally avoided any kind of spoilers on social media. And so I'm sure I'll be very surprised when I open this up. I may do a big knitting project of some kind, maybe a blanket, maybe a scrappy sweater. I might put it on my loom and weave it up. That might be kind of fun. So I'm not really sure, but I will let you know how it goes. And yeah, I was really, really excited and relieved to receive it because I was starting to get a little nervous. But that was a really fun acquisition, and I'm super excited in February to start opening it up. Speaking of advent calendars, I have woven several projects from my own advent, and so I will be sharing those with you maybe next week. It was so much fun. It was so much fun to work with my own advent calendar. And I hope all of you who were able to purchase one this year has had so much fun with yours as well. It's a ton of yarn, and so you really can stretch your projects out with these calendars. I wove 2 large projects with mine, and then I still have yarn left over that I may knit some socks or do something with that. But I'll probably be sharing the advent with you next week, or, in the next couple of weeks I will be. And right after this, I'm going to film a shop update preview, so I would love for you to join me with that. And I'll be having my shop update this Friday, January 15th at 8 p.m. Eastern Time at pineappleyarn.com. I won't have a lot of new products, but I will have a few just to kind of ease myself back into all the dyeing and the winding, and I had a blast dyeing and winding this yarn, and so I hope you find something that you love as well. I also have my February club pre-orders now in the shop. It's my Yarn and Candle Club as well as my Sun Club, which is my bold and bright neon yarn club. So definitely go check those out if you're interested. But that's it for this week. Thank you so much for joining me. And if you liked the episode, I'd love if you'd give it a thumbs up and subscribe. I hope you're doing so well where you are, and I'll catch you again next week for another episode. But until then, I hope you have an awesome day. Bye.